So watching TVC Breakfast. Now, Nigeria is stepping up efforts to boost food production, strengthen food security, and grow agricultural exports, but the journey is far from smooth. Now, across farmlands, farmers are working hard to increase yields through improved seeds and modern methods, yet challenges like poor access to credit, rising input costs, insecurity in farming regions, and weak storage facilities continue to threaten process. Experts believe real success will depend on consistent policies and investments that empower farmers to thrive. Joining us in our Abuja studio for this conversation is expert African farmer Mogaji. He's a turnaround expert and he's an African farmer, Mogaji. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going? It's so good to have you this morning. And I love the fact that you are a farmer. So it's very beautiful to have this conversation with you. But I want to start from insecurity. You know, if I take you through Borno, Castina, some of these northern countries, we've had a lot of attacks that farmers have gone to their farm, just the farm, and they've been attacked. A lot of farmers are scared to even go to the farm because they feel like, you know, they'll be attacked on the farm. And now we're talking about food security. I think that do we need to look at insecurity when it comes to our farmers, to give them that peace of mind that you can go to the farm and farm? Because if these farmers don't farm, at the end of the day, we do not get food to eat. So I just quickly want to pick your brain on when we talk about insecurity that doesn't let these farmers just do their job peacefully.
Yes, we cannot overemphasize security when it comes to food production or the value chain, generally processing, marketing, especially production. We can't overemphasize security. However, the security 2 years ago, insecurity 2 years ago is not the same today. What you had before were farmers could not go to the farm. It's banditry in the south, the Boko Haram and insurgency. But things have changed a lot. From a field perspective, because I have networks and I have operated farms across the country, things have really gotten better. Farmers are going back to the farms. When it comes to, take for instance, tomatoes. This year, for the first time in 26 years, the government has been able to stabilize prices. Last year, you know, it was 150,000 to 200,000 per basket of tomatoes. This year, it was stabilized to 50,000 and below, and it was projected to be 300,000. What happened? The Minister of Agriculture, Senator Abubakar Kyari, did engage SMEs. And because of the confidence, the SMEs went to the farms, especially SMEs and individuals who were in the rural communities and communities where they ideally don't produce tomatoes. So basically, the insecurity has relatively been managed. It doesn't mean that's the end, but bottom line, from experience, from the field, insecurity is really, really better, but it can still improve.
All right, let's go to this other aspect of farming that we are not very strong as a country, and I'm talking about storage. In the north, we have a lot of grains. In fact, the focus on farming in the north is grains. In the south, we go into other crops. No matter the crop, whether it's tomato, rice, beans, anything, you need storage so that you have some kind of year-round availability of the product. But we are very weak there. What are we doing about it?
Well, you're right, we are very weak, and it's very weak in the area of storage, you know, but also storage, there's a component of government, there's a component of private sector. It is both. One of the things that has recently happened is, you know, the Minister of Agriculture and the team did engage the people, the private sector, that they concessioned most of the silos to discover that 3 out of 11 are functional and the remaining non-functional. So what that means, and this is in the hands of private sector, what that means is that we need to look at the model, revisit the models. In places like Colorado, in America, in places like Iowa in America, these are places where I've done extensive studies on silos. it's more private sector and cooperative. They are the ones that own silos, not government. The government owns reserves when there is national food security challenges, so they unlock the vaults of the silos. We don't have enough, no doubt about it. Government needs to, in fact, double down on more silos, but mostly it's the private sector. And what you have is you don't have silos like we have in Nigeria in various locations really far from the communities where they are producing those materials. So you have somewhere like Sacramento in the US where they grow a bit of grains. You have individuals, cooperatives, private sector set up small grains. Even most farmers have 5 tons. I've seen farmers even in India, 10 tons. But even in Ghana, you have 1 ton silos in every community. So we need silos more in the communities where the grains are produced. But it's predominantly for private sector to make money, see money in that value chain and not just see silo as government business. Develop the silos so that farmers can, store their grains. I know an organization in Colorado, Affinity. It's a feed company. What they did was to get a 50-year loan, build very giant silos. So when the farmers harvest, they take all those grains, they put it in a corn and soya location. Take all those grains, and what they do is when the farmers who rear livestock, when they need livestock, they take the grains from them. When the farmers are supposed to sell, they give them some cash. So when it is off-season, the farmers sell to them. So bottom line is that silo is not necessarily a government business. It is reserved that is a government business. Silo business is for you and I to take advantage of. We are missing in that space. And also government needs to improve in what in scaling. They need probably 4 or 5 times of what we currently have. But even what we have is not efficiently utilized. So maybe government should be considering retrieving those silos from the people that they've concessioned it because they've not delivered in a few years.
Absolutely. Very well put, Farmer Mogaji. I must say you've long championed, agribusiness innovation and agribusiness technology. My question is, how can technology practically transform, smallhold farmers into globally competitive producers within, let's say, the next 5-10 years?
Now, so when we talk about technology, it's very interesting to me. Technology needs to be adopted and adapted at different levels. For the Nigerian context, you have to adopt and adapt. You can't bring technology from anywhere and try to implement it. It won't work. So we need to adopt it and adapt it to this environment. Because most of our rural farmers, though they are on mobile phones, they are mobile phones for social activities, not that they can really use it. So technologies need to be adopted and adapted, and it needs to be intermediate. Intermediate in the sense that the technology must be something that a Sadiq, a Chinedu, a Kasali, can do something with. Intermediate, nothing so big. What we've found over the years is we find people go to like US, get a technology like for production, and try to adopt it in Nigeria or Europe. Meanwhile, they have spring, summer, and co. We have just 2. So technology is good, but it has to be intermediate. Yeah. It's not something that should be high-tech. High-tech has not worked and will currently not work. We still don't have the basis, but technology is needed. But Absolutely. Technology also should not be something giant, something big, small. Because you mentioned small scale. They produce about 80% of the food we produce. So bottom line, technology is needed. Technology will aid a lot of things, but technology also needs to be adapted to our current reality, which is where we have a challenge.
African Farmer Mogaji, thank you very kindly, for those insightful ones. But then, when we look at the price of food now in the markets, they are seemingly coming down, as against what they used to be. But one challenge there is that some are saying that the reason why we're having the crash in price of food is due to the importation of food, just to ensure that they crash the price of food. And that's one. And then the second one is the place of exports. we are not doing so well? Why are we not doing so well in terms of exporting? Because, for instance, our yam, talk about packaging, the legal frameworks and all of that, that some have to take it to Ghana, package it, and then now take it outside of the country. Could you quickly, just speak to, these challenges we're facing as a country?
Yes. It's very interesting that that's the news going around that is the rice is the corn they import, the government imported, that is responsible for the drop in prices. It's far from it. So what has happened in the field is you have many private sector professionals, farmers, some feed millers, middlemen. They've hoarded these grains. Now, a product that should, take for instance, 2020, a ton of corn, that's 10 bags of corn, was sold for 45,000 naira. So one bad policy then, the president then was misinformed. He did a policy, and in 2 weeks, it moved to 150, from 150 to 210, and it kept on, up until it went to 10,000 naira for 10 bags. There's a saying, we call it sukumo suramos, but bottom line with that is, government imported about 1% of Nigeria's annual demand. The moment they announced, the experienced people began to offload their corn. When the first ship docked, because they also brought it in phases, not at once, everybody began to offload. And in a space of 2 weeks, the prices dropped from that 700,000 thereabout to less than 200,000. That's for 10 bags. And eventually, so in some places, it went even lower to 115, 110. And now it's in up 200 to 334. So it had nothing to do with 1% importation. And what I know, I speak with authority now, those grains that government even imported is still in the reserves, untouched. So it is you and I, as in private sector, that took advantage of the instability in the country to increase the price of grains. So the grains imported are still in the silos, which tells everybody dynamics in Nigeria is very different.
Exactly.
Announcement that corn will be
I wish we could have you for longer conversations. And I love what you have on your T-shirt, no farmer, no future, because at the end of the day, our farmers are definitely needed. Thank you, Mr. Mogaji, African farmer Mogaji. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. We do appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
And it's so beautiful that we're talking about this. I love the fact that he was able to clear my doubts a bit when we speak about, insecurity, because oftentimes what we read on the papers is these farmers are scared. Some farmers have even come out to speak out that they are afraid to go to the farms, but he is saying that it has reduced. I know that it's not fully eradicated because we still hear those stories, but Etoma, he's saying that it has reduced, which is good for us.
Yes, he's saying that it's reduced, And the last, the answer he gave to your question, he said, okay, so government knows that these people have been herding grains, and they said, okay, let's play fast one. They imported 1% and everybody brought and look at what it has done to the pricing of grains in the country. Another thing that is very informative about his answer to my question is that there's actually some serious good business that we can invest in when it comes to storage of food items. It's a new ecosystem of business that we can take advantage of. So we should encourage ourselves and encourage our viewers that are watching right now that, look, go into storage and you're not going to, you're going to be happy about it at the end of the day.
And Olamide, for me, I feel like a lot of young people before used to love farming, but at some points they kind of lost hope in farming because of all the things that we hear. I just hope that, with these conversations that we're having, we're now going into farming, because farming is very lucrative. If after journalism I may be a farmer, because it's lucrative.
You should actually be.
Right?
The job that African farmer Mogaji is doing is extremely important. When we compare it to the food insecurity statistics, or we compare it to the fact that the World Health Organization has said several times that Nigeria is in a food crisis. It's good to see that while there are glum statistics and a lot of sadness and killings, unfortunately, on farms, there's hopeful conversations like this that are focusing on solution-based innovation to farming problems and farming communities.
And I love the fact that, Ibrahim, you mentioned the prices of food as well,
Yeah, so, and that's to tell you that what he said, you know, goes to show that Nigerians are the problems of Nigeria, you know, to start with. Why would some people, I gave you a story of a man who sold his house, 28 million, and then went straight ahead to, you know, buy or mop up the market because he had a bag of beans, which was sold for maybe less than 30,000 naira or 40,000 naira, went up as high as 350,000 naira, and people made like times 3 of their investment. He went ahead to sell his house and then came back. When he now saw the price of beans now came down to 125,000 or thereabouts, he lost a whole lot of money. So imagine selling your own house, your only house, for 28 million naira, and then you are realizing 50 million naira. I understand the man may probably collapse or maybe committed suicide.
Sometimes greed is the reason for all of those things.
So it is not so good when we are doing, being unjust to ourselves, because you just want to make gains, quick gains. It's so sad, and people are dying. People are being killed.
And
they're not
you know, Ibrahim, just to add
eat.
to what you're saying, still on you. You know, some of the prices, you go to the market and they'll tell you, oh, the tomato is expensive. This is the price, and you see that these people have really hiked their price. And I say, nah, man, they do, man. At the end of the day, because it's not somebody else, we are the ones doing ourselves.
But you speak outside. You just speak outside today.
Sometimes actually, life is not like you. But anyway, still ahead on